Aaron.
Couldn't hear anything, but welcome back. We had no audio. We were trying to let you know in the private chat, do it discreetly, but another episode of Pardon the Punctuation is upon us. So as always, I am joined by the self-proclaimed best producer in the city.
I screwed up.
It's all right, man. No worries. As long as it's on the actual podcast when we drop the podcast, all I'm worried about. I'm also joined by Fu Man Jeff, and it's been a crazy, wild couple of days. I feel like I've aged about 7 years in the last week. That said, before we get going with anything, special thank you to those who are joining us live, whether you're joining us from the new forums that we have with Facebook. We also have Twitter that you can join us live. And as always on our YouTube page, as we have been bringing it there for the last couple months. That said, I did want to start off with Bearcat Nation, the Facebook group that we have been under control of since its inception. We have obviously had some things going on over the course of the last several months, and we got to come under the umbrella of Chad Brendel and Bearcat Journal, and we are converting the Bearcat Nation page.
And Bearcat Journal.
Thanks, Ed. And I can hear me now.
We are converting the Bearcat Nation.
I thought, hey, that's on me again. That's on me.
Yep. Again, self-proclaimed best
That's
editor
on me again.
in the city.
New setup. New setup.
So again, we are tinkering with some new things as we upgraded our StreamYard thanks to a Black Friday deal there. So you're going to be seeing some new things visually on the video things, especially. But again, Bearcat Nation on Facebook. We are, as Pardon the Punctuation has joined with Bearcat Journal. We are converting the Bearcat Nation page to one run coinciding with Bearcat Journal. So it is going to be Bearcat Nation presented by Bearcat Journal. So there's going to be a little bit of changes in there. So make sure you're keeping a look at some of the new rules. We are doing our best to make sure that there's a lot going on in that group as far as things being reported, people being sketched, people being just a little bit weird, people just being people, to be quite honest with you. And so we're doing our best to police in there as we can. So continue to report things as you deem necessary, and we'll go ahead and make the calls on that. But the biggest change is going to be just in the way of, we're going to be putting first and foremost the Bearcat Journal articles, the videos, and making sure that stuff's posted as it comes to you from Bearcat Journal. Some of it's going to say that it is VIP only and that you have to have a Bearcat Journal subscription in order to watch or read those things for some of those. But you can get that subscription at least until the end of tonight, 75% off for the year. So I think it ends up being like $26 for the year.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. I mean, you guys were members before we were even under that umbrella. So
yep. A lot of good info in there.
Anything else you guys want to add? So we are going to be just watching for, especially for, no offense, but for other outlets that are posting their stuff. Generally speaking, I mean, it's going to be one of those things where we continue to allow it, but it's not going to need to be every single thing you have every single time you release something. So we're going to kind of start to weed some of that out a little bit, but just heads up on that. Anything else you guys have to add in that regard?
No, that group is growing fast and furious. Rapidly. And just kind of watch out if you're in there for the scam things that kind of pop up on selling tickets. Make sure you're vetting everything. I know there's been some people that have gotten burned. I feel bad about it. I do post regularly in there to make sure that you're kind of vetting the things that you're looking at when you're trying to buy tickets to games that are hard to come by.
Right. So I think that's all of the housekeeping that we needed to get out of the way in that regard. So we had the CFP rankings that dropped today, about an hour and a half ago. Ed, if you could be so kind to pull up those top 25 again. But as expected, you have Georgia in at number 1. You had Michigan swapping places. Ohio State slid even then some. But Michigan takes that 2 spot from Ohio State. Alabama, after a 4 overtime victory over Auburn in the Iron Bowl, comes in at number 3. Cincinnati remains at number 4. Oklahoma State jumped from number 7 to number 5. Notre Dame also made a jump to number 6. Ohio State slides all the way from 2 to number 7. And I believe that is the beginning of your 2-loss teams, and everyone thereafter has at least 2 losses after Ohio State. And at this point, I think it's probably pretty fair to say they're irrelevant. 2-loss teams would be irrelevant. They've never had a 2-loss team in the college football playoff. So right on cue, as we're getting ready to discuss the college football playoff rankings, Chad Brendel joins us from Bearcat Journal himself. Chad, welcome to the show.
I think Chad's frozen.
Chad's internet's struggling a little bit. Maybe.
I'm on my iPod. It's not working. Let me try the laptop. I'll be right back.
You got it.
Cool.
So what stood out to either of you as you looked at these rankings, and saw Michigan jump into number 2, making probably the biggest leap outside of Oklahoma State?
Let's talk about the fact that Alabama is still at 3. I mean, I get it that they've won, but we've seen in the past teams like, look, if you go down to Baylor slides down a spot, right?
Yep.
They won their game against Texas Tech.
That they did.
They slide down a spot. Ohio State gets launched all the way back to 7. So to me, Ohio State went from 2 to 7, and they lost to what? Michigan was 5 last week, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
So they lose to the number 5 team on the road in a rivalry game.
Correct.
They drop all the way to 7. If Georgia loses to Alabama, they should also drop 5 spots.
They're not dropping 5 spots. You know that. I know that. I think the difference
I get it.
there,
Ohio State now has 2 losses.
The difference there, though, is Georgia would only have 1 loss at that point,
right,
as opposed to 2 losses.
Right.
So it's a little bit different in that regard.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's fair. But when you look at it, though, like, this is the end of the season. This is kind of like, what have you done for me lately? And if one of these teams in the top 4 lose this weekend, they should be gone. I don't think you should get a hang around. Sorry.
I think the biggest issue that I would see is if Alabama does take a loss, even though it is to number 1 Georgia and they're expected to lose, they're coming in as underdogs.
They should be gone.
I don't think that you can put a 2-loss team in Alabama, even considering, especially when you consider the fact that Alabama has played only 4 true away games this season.
Okay.
Well, hang on. Let me finish that thought. They lost to Texas A&M at Texas A&M, and they struggled.
Unranked at the time,
and their ranking is bullshit.
Well, now they've snuck. They're holding on to a top 25 ranking all the way down there.
4 loss Texas A&M drops from 15, where they shouldn't have ever been anyway, with 3 losses, and is now sitting at 25. Get out of here, Texas A&M. You don't even belong in the top 25. I would have taken a 14 ranked Wisconsin drop to 25 over
they
this.
They just lost to a school with a coach that was on his way out. That was when they asked him if he was going to coach in the bowl game. Was like, nah, I'm going to be on the beach. That's not exactly what Ed Orgeron sounds like, but that's what he said.
He did make sure to give one last "Go Tigers."
And then he looked at his girlfriend and said, "Come on, baby, let's go." And they walked out.
But you also have the situation where they damn near lost to Auburn in the Iron Bowl. And
well, that's what I was getting at with Alabama.
But Auburn had, going into that game, had 5 losses already. So yes, you dealt them their 6th loss, but you've struggled against a 5-loss Auburn and a 4-loss Texas A&M.
But it's a rivalry game. I mean, it's in the SEC.
All the SEC teams are rivals, as far as I can tell. I mean, Paul Feinbaum will talk all day long about how all the SEC, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
I just don't think Alabama has any business being in the top 4. I mean, when they took their loss to A&M, what did they drop to? Like 6?
I think they didn't drop any further than 6. I don't believe at any point during the season.
Okay, so Ohio State essentially took the same L, losing to a top 5 team that Alabama did, losing to an unranked team earlier this year.
But it was their first loss, Jeff.
I mean, that doesn't track.
I mean, this is Ohio State's second loss. So, I mean, maybe that's where you can justify it. I don't know. Whatever. In any case, though, you also have Oklahoma State jumping from 7-5 after beating number 10 Oklahoma in a very close fought game where defense won the game for Oklahoma State.
That's surprising to hear out of that conference.
That's fair assessment, generally speaking, for the Big 12. But I don't know. I mean, I certainly don't see, even with some crazy shakeups in this conference championship weekend, I just don't see a situation where Notre Dame even sneaks into that 4 spot.
Well, okay. So Notre Dame won't at this point, and it's Brian Kelly's fault. Because if you listen to what Gary Barta said going right after the rankings were revealed today, they asked him about that because that's written into their protocol about, going with, loss of players who maybe opt out early or whatever, and then also coaches that leave or get fired or whatever happens. It can be used as part of their ranking. And he said that, that wasn't brought up for this ranking because this is based on the games that were played through last weekend. And Brian Kelly was still the coach then. So that doesn't affect their ranking going into now. However, it is something that they may consider going into the final rankings on Sunday. So let's say that there's this crazy shakeup up top and Michigan and Alabama both lose. Let's say they get jettisoned out. Let's say Oklahoma State loses to Baylor. Then you would think in that instance, it would probably be Georgia, UC, Notre Dame, but they may look at it and say, well, their head coach is gone. We're just going to leave them. We'll leave them at 6. Right?
Yes.
And so then they leave them at 6, and now all those players get screwed out of a national championship run because Brian Kelly left. Unless Notre Dame does the right thing and goes and promotes Marcus Freeman immediately.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot going on there. So I don't know what you do with all of that. The Notre Dame thing obviously is a mess. And it's been a mess since last night when you had Brian Kelly taken off for LSU in a similar fashion Cincinnati is all too familiar with. But that said, we do have Chad back with us here in the chat. I know you were on the radio today, Chad, and you have been probably talking about this until literally your face has been blue. But what are your thoughts in regards to everything that went on with Brian Kelly, the way he left Notre Dame, and just the shit show that's been?
I got our answer. I saved it for you guys. I didn't use this take at all today on the radio. Ooh. Would Brian Kelly have coached Cincinnati in a potential national championship game, or would he have left for Notre Dame? And the answer is
knowing what we know now,
left for Notre Dame.
Knowing what we know now, it definitely would have been him leaving.
Yeah, I think he would have.
We got our answer.
Yeah, I think he would have pieced out because he doesn't care because Notre Dame still has a chance, has
right.
Every bit of a chance here to get into the top 4.
They were 5. They were 5. They were right there. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Nah, I'm good. Peace, homie.
I'm out."
Yeah, No,
Like we finally got our answer.
I'm just glad that he hung around up there long enough for UC to get a little bit of to exercise some demons up there.
Heck yeah. Absolutely.
Head on your merry way and go. Like, he'll never be able to yell "Go Tigers." Like, it's not going to sound right.
I like the people making the joke about the fact that he's going to go into a restaurant and ask for a bologna poor boy.
Oh man, I don't know. I saw somebody say that Brian Kelly's the kind of guy that thinks that Sprite's too spicy.
Well, McDonald's Sprite, regular Sprite. McDonald's Sprite's pretty spicy.
I have no words.
It's spicy in a good way. I like spicy, but McDonald's has got that little extra.
The extra carbonation.
Yeah, a little extra, right? Like that stuff's a little spicy.
Unbelievable.
Am I wrong?
In any case, Brian Kelly, he's gone, and now we're left wondering what's next for Notre Dame, as it could directly affect Cincinnati in a couple different ways. One of which being Luke Fickell supposedly is at the top of their list, according to some sources. Other sources have Marcus Freeman at the top of their current list. There was some interesting news that Chad kind of hit us with on Twitter earlier. And Chad, what is that news that you're just kind of trying to piece some tea leaves together as you're combing your way through this mess of social media?
I mean, nothing is guaranteed here, right? Like,
correct.
I'm not pretending that in any way, shape, or form.
This isn't one of those like secret, not a secret type things. This is literally just tea leaves.
1 + 1 almost always equals 2. Okay. Notre Dame retained their strength and conditioning coach over an offer to go be with Brian Kelly at LSU. They have a fantastic strength and conditioning coach. He's considered one of the best in the country. Brian Kelly brought him in 2016 when things were kind of falling apart, right? He had Paul Longo, who was kind of his right-hand man. And it was really like a surprise that Kelly got rid of Longo, because Longo was considered his like confidant. And this guy's done it. He's considered one of the main reasons that Notre Dame had the resurgence that they've had since 2016. So keeping him at Notre Dame means that he is going to be the strength and for all intents and purposes. The only thing that would possibly indicate is that this guy's going to be the strength and conditioning coach for whoever the new coach is at Notre Dame.
Well, I think something else that you can kind of put in with that is they're trying to keep Reese. And if you're trying to keep Reese.
Yeah, but we haven't got there yet. We'll get there. That's part of it. But the strength and look.
That's a big thing.
Staff
absolutely.
is one thing. The strength and conditioning coach is
huge.
The lieutenant. Like that's the guy. And Luke Fickell's not going anywhere without Brady Collins. Period, point blank, end of story. Brady Collins was the third hire, for Luke Fickell at Cincinnati. Marcus Freeman, Doug Phillips, who's the head coach at Youngstown State now, Brady Collins. Like, inner circle as inner circle gets. Notre Dame now has a strength and conditioning coach. And if you were hiring or intended to hire Luke Fickell, there's no way you would have retained your strength and conditioning coach, because you're going to have to fire him, right?
It just wouldn't make sense.
Luke Fickell. It wouldn't make sense.
So last night there was I don't know if you want to call it like an emergency gathering of some folks on Twitter in a Twitter Spaces and it was put together by Mick Asaf, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly. But he, I guess, was a walk-on at Notre Dame. They have obviously a very, kind of, they got this like walk-on players union thing. But there were something like 5,000 people in this Twitter Spaces. They obviously only let like, I don't know, a handful of people talk. I think Kyle Hamilton spoke a little bit before I got in there. And then they had some other guys. Ian Book was in there. Michael Jr. was in there. Cole Kmet was in there. Julian Love. So a lot of these guys that are kind of still, they're, some of them are playing professional football. Lots of, I think we lost Chad.
Sorry. Go ahead.
He hit the wrong button. So you've got a lot of these guys that are kind of connected in with, kind of some behind the scenes stuff of Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And they were all very adamant that Marcus Freeman is the pick that they would want and what they've heard. Obviously, Swarbrick came out today and said nothing of the sort, just kind of, we're not going to have an interim.
I'm going to conduct a search. And
if we do have an interim, that person won't be considered for the head coaching spot, which then why are you going to accept the interim spot? That's my view on it. Like, I wouldn't want to, but they all then kind of pivoted from the Marcus Freeman talk to the Bayless talk, which is their strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah.
And they all kind of said, look, when this guy came in 2016, he reset the tone of what Notre Dame football is. And obviously things have been very successful for them since. And they were all very adamant, like, you've got to make a push to keep him. You can't let him go. I guess he is a Chicago guy, so it's one of those things, like, he likes where he's at up there. It's obviously pretty close with Chicago. So they were all very adamant on that end of things, of having to keep, wanting to keep the continuity there. I think Notre Dame has lost at least one recruit so far.
The defensive back.
A defensive back.
Which was a bit surprising.
If you're keeping your DC.
Because Freeman's got such a heavy hand in their defensive recruiting.
Well, he's got a pretty heavy hand in all the recruiting, doesn't he?
Yeah, not as much on the offense. Like, the defense is...
I mean, that would make sense.
And they kind of, like... They almost separate the two. Like Chad Bowden, when he was here, was the director of recruiting. There, he's the director of defensive recruiting. And then they have another guy that's the director of offensive recruiting. Tommy Rees kind of handles all the offensive prospects. Marcus kind of handles all the defensive guys.
Are any of these positions the ones that are labeled with like a sponsored previous Notre Dame alumni?
Well, Freeman's is.
It's so weird.
I think those are coaching. Those are the coaching spots, right?
Spots, yeah.
Or like
weird. I mean, it's better than
the salary of the guy.
It's better than being, Michigan State Spartans brought to you by Rocket Mortgage.
Right. It's like, if I'm paying the coach's salary, I want my name on his name.
Touche.
Yeah.
That's my spot.
Some people buy wings at the campus. They decided to go all in, and
we buy defensive coordinators in this family.
That's what we sponsor here. But I don't know. I think that is kind of a telling thing. They put out that little video. I think Chad retweeted it when he kind of made his statement on that. But you can hear him in there saying, like, look, and I think he kind of understands as well, like, these kids probably don't have a whole lot of trust in some coaches right now.
Right.
But he's like, I want, if my last day was, if I die in here coaching you guys, that's what I want to do. He does seem like he's kind of like a that area kind of guy.
Well, let's talk about Brian. Let's talk about Brian Kelly for a minute. Where you set up this meeting at 7 a.m. and you're there for 10 minutes.
Not even.
No, he talked for 2 minutes. He was there for 10 minutes and gone, all the way gone in 15. Absolutely wild.
That was brought up. That was brought up last night as well on there when they were speaking in their like the little spaces thing, and some of the guys were like, "Hey, I think I can't pronounce her last name, Jessica
Smetana.
Okay, so she was in there, and she flat out said like, does anybody show up to this meeting?" And immediately, like they were all,
hell no.
So they were all clamoring to talk, and they were like, "Absolutely, you show up to that meeting. You're a Notre Dame football player. It's a Notre Dame football meeting. It's being called. You will be there." And
2
everybody,
minutes though. Like what kind of shit is that?
7 a.m. to hear Brian Kelly talk for 2 minutes.
They were all like, "Yep, I guarantee you all those players will be there, and they will be there early, not on time. They will be there early and ready to go, and they'll all sit down and listen to what has to be said." Obviously, I think they thought that there was probably going to be like maybe a little time for some questions or something. It doesn't sound like there was any time for that.
No questions.
It was like, "Hey, I'm no longer your head coach. You guys saw it yesterday, so I'm out." And got in his car and left.
What was the love that he used? That he has
limitless
love, limitless.
Like, and kudos to
clearly limited amount of love.
Until you put $100 million check in front of me, that's actually my limit. There were only 999.99.
I'm ditching y'all mofos in a second if somebody puts $100 million in front of me.
Man.
Hey.
Y'all work for somebody else now.
Break a piece of that off. You know what I mean? And I get it. Like, I think we all get it. Brian Kelly is just like the ultimate like bad guy as far as like the way he goes about this. And I think a lot of it was triggered by the fact that Lincoln Riley tried to steal his thunder as like the worst exit ever, and then Brian Kelly was like, "Hold my beer, like I'm out, like hold my gumbo."
Did you guys hear my interview with Tom Lloyd today?
No.
So Tom Lloyd covers Notre Dame. Ed, you're muted. You're muted, Ed. You're muted. We can't hear you.
I guess the hotkeys don't work. All right, we're good.
Jesus.
So Tom Lloyd covers Notre Dame for Irish Illustrated. It's the 24/7 site for Notre Dame. He's phenomenal. He is as good as there is in the network at covering his team. He said he heard Brian Kelly was in-house with a recruit when the news broke last night, right? He heard Brian Kelly was talking to the kid about how wrong it was, how he left Cincinnati in 2009, and how he would never do anything like that again. As the story was breaking that he was leaving for Notre Dame while he was inside this kid's house.
Unbelievable.
I saw that. It was like,
I saw that one of the guys said
he
felt like a fucking asshole, but now we know why he actually, like one of the other guys that was there with him.
Yeah, that's one of the coaches.
Actually felt like a fucking asshole.
Because Brian Kelly's in there telling the kid, "I would never do this to you." As he's in the middle of doing it.
And he knew it.
Right.
What a slime ball.
Your agent is not secretly negotiating a $100 million deal without your knowledge. Okay.
And his agent's the same agent as Lincoln Riley's agent.
It's Jimmy Sexton.
Which I didn't know until
also,
I heard
he's everybody's agent.
Luke Fickell's agent.
Marcus Freeman's agent. He's everybody's agent.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
He's the most powerful man in college football.
But like when it started like rumbling, I have a buddy who's an Ohio State fan, and he like sent. I was like, I don't see him leaving Notre Dame right now to go to like I just didn't. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't really fit anything to me. Like, I don't know. I just was kind of a blindside, I guess, to really everybody. And he's like, no, like LSU's a much better job than Notre Dame, and then I was proven wrong, and in very short order.
Well, how about me last night? I'll worry about the Notre Dame job when the Notre Dame job's open.
Right.
Like 8 seconds later, the Notre Dame job's open.
That was
way to go, asshole.
That was good because but you know, in true Chad fashion, you're like, and raised. That one's on me.
Yep, I earned that one. That's my bad. Oops. That's what people don't understand. I'll take the L. I have no problem taking the L when I deserve the L. I deserve the L for that one. I was being a smart ass, and it smacked me in the face real quick.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield.
It's true.
Like it just didn't make a whole lot of sense, and then it rapidly became one of those things from like, oh, maybe this is like some leverage to get, you know, a bigger Notre Dame contract, and then it was very clear, like, no, like he is in fact not gonna. And then he sent a text message, and God bless whichever one of those players leaked that out.
Right?
God bless.
That gave us the limitless love, the limitless love quote.
That's a beautiful alliteration.
And I would like a T-shirt that just says "limitless love" in
You can make one.
In Notre Dame script.
Maybe the new sponsor of the BBP mailbag could make a limitless love T-shirt. That's
fair.
That's foreshadowing for next Monday night.
Can't wait.
We're adding a sponsor a week.
Oh,
big things.
Can't wait for this one to get the next one.
How about how much of an asshole I am? I called him Delco Transmission all night.
You know, I was wondering about that when I was listening this morning. Like,
yeah, it's
Danco.
I know people on the board were trying to say that you all were saying. For the record, I didn't say Delco or Danco or anything. I was like, I don't know which one it is.
It's Danco. I just look. As we hit record last night, Brian Kelly took the LSU job.
Well,
my brain was as far from like dialed into that, and I apologize to our guys at Danco Transmission and Joe Stewart. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, in all fairness, if you want to just drop that right here at just a free promo for him right now, just making up as we have 2/3 of the BBP here.
I could do it for you. Danco Transmissions in Fairfield. Mention the Bearcat Bounce. You could save $10 on your next oil change.
Or service. Any service.
Or service, yeah.
All right. Good job, Ed.
Good job, Ed.
That's maybe the best read you've ever done. Unbelievable. I have no words.
What just happened?
That's Ed being Ed, actually.
That's the moose humping the farm machinery.
Ed's playing with his new toys.
So
you got new toy. Did you upgrade, Ed? Did you upgrade your service?
We upgraded tonight. Yep.
I like it. I think we're also going to be migrating to SoundCloud, so you're going to be able to watch
StreamYard.
StreamYard. You're going to be able to watch the BBP and the BCJ podcasts, and this podcast, and our fourth podcast.
A fourth. We're getting a fourth in the family.
Anything you want to drop on that, or are we just keeping it just all up in the air right now?
For now.
All right.
For now. I got a title sponsor. I've got a host.
Ooh.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
Spicy. Like Sprite from McDonald's.
Sprite.
Like
Jesus.
McDonald's Sprite.
God, I hate everything. And Michael Ewing did have a comment earlier. He said he went to the ECU game in Greenville. Very few Bearcat fans compared to Pirates fans, but it was awesome. First Bearcats game ever. Every cheer I made for Cincinnati was met with dirty looks. Greenville. I did it again.
You still calling it Evansville?
Did it again.
Fine. Greenville is not a place where people generally look on the schedule to circle a game to travel to, especially in
the day after Thanksgiving.
Well, it was the day after Thanksgiving, and it was the fact that you already had Indiana, you already had Notre Dame. There were certainly some travel games. You also had the South Florida Tampa game. Even the New Orleans game would have been some better destination spots than Greenville. So there is
in November, the day after Thanksgiving.
And
at
not
3:30 in the afternoon.
Not even like a night game. It was a 3:30 afternoon. You would have had to like leave with the turkey still digesting.
Williams drove with his dad. They drove there and back.
He must have really wanted quality time with his dad.
That's a drive.
I let me tell you this. If you get a chance to do something like that and your dad is down, do it.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
Do it.
All
For sure.
day.
I agree.
I did the Orange Bowl with my dad via car. 20 hours there, 20 hours back. And the ride back sucked. The ride back sucked. But the ride there, like you get through Atlanta. We did it in the middle of the night to get through Atlanta, so we didn't have to deal with Atlanta traffic. And by the time we got to like Jacksonville to go down the east coast of Florida, the sun was coming up. So we just drove down the coast of Florida for like 10 hours. It was awesome.
That is awesome.
Coming home,
every time. Hey Ed, can you drop that top 25 up again? If you could.
Yeah, give me a second.
So Chad, how disrespected do you feel that Houston was coming in after moving up from number 24 with only one loss, and that one loss coming the very first week? As we talked about last night, I said that they're coming into Cincinnati. Obviously, Danny Holgerson's already feeling disrespected that it's not at a neutral site. I think we dwelt on that topic plenty last night on the BBP. But how disrespected do you think they feel at this point with only one loss? You have all these 3 and 4 lost teams around them, and here they are having only lost their very first game and only moving up from that 24 spot to that 21 spot.
I'm sure they're disrespected. I'm sure they feel slighted, disrespected, but that they've been disrespected for 3 weeks now.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, this is a championship game, man. Like, disrespect over where you're at in the CFP rankings isn't like, that's not a factor on the field. Like, that's not giving you an edge over Cincinnati, right? I get where you're coming from. Like, they're going to certainly be playing with the chip on their shoulder.
Right.
But I just don't think it gives them even what's the significant advantage that gives them over Cincinnati?
Well, I guess I'm also upset for them in that now we have to worry about Oklahoma State having a top 10 team 2 weeks in a row, as you had an inflated Oklahoma, by my opinion. And now Baylor coming in with 2 losses there at number 8. It's just, it seems wacky to me that everybody shits on the Big 12, says they're, the weakest of the Power 5. I'm looking at you, Pac-12. You should not be pointing fingers at anyone.
Right.
And also the ACC with Clemson in a down year. We've seen that literally. I mean, Wake Forest emerged. Come on, man.
What are they? I think they've scooted back up to what, 11? Ed hasn't put the thing back up for me to.
Ed, you got new toys. Come on, bro.
It's frozen. Hold on, I'm fixing it.
Right.
But I see where you're going with that, Aaron. I mean, we've said it from we lost Ed.
Ed froze.
Yeah, he said it froze. I think he's trying to just hop back
reboot
in.
his thing.
Yeah.
No, I think Ed froze. Ed's froze.
But
let it go.
Oh.
From the first week of the CFP rankings coming in, if you were to go all the way back and
Houston
watch,
was like 16 in the AP and coming in.
Go all the way back and watch those shows. We talked about how they were propping.
Hi, Ed.
I'm back.
The guys, the teams
back.
that they wanted to prop up and the conferences they wanted to prop up by sliding teams all out of whack from, like, I mean, if you look at the AP and the coaches poll, and then you look at that initial CFP, and it's like people are watching different games. But we broke it down and we discussed why
I don't think they're actually watching. I still don't believe they're actually watching the games.
I mean, that's also up for debate. So yeah, okay. No, I guess Wake Forest is at 16. Who moved back up to 11? Who's at 11 now?
Baylor.
Michigan State.
They're Michigan State. How are they at 11? Trash. You know me do my Pac-Man take on these rankings?
Well, let's talk about how Utah must feel after they put a whooping on Oregon, who was what, 3 at the time?
Yeah.
Yep.
And they've moved up like 4 spots total since then.
They do have 3 losses though. How high are you going to put a 3-loss team?
Well, who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, they're putting all, they're moving everybody else up. I mean, Oregon lost to Stanford, who only has 3 wins. Stanford has literally not won a game since they beat Oregon.
It's their last win.
Unreal.
So, like, I mean, if you want to look at stuff like that, you look at a team like Georgia who has no losses. So, like, I have no complaint with where they're at. Michigan, okay, they lost to Michigan State, but then they did just.
And Oklahoma has 2 losses to 2 top 10 teams in Oklahoma State and Baylor. If I'm not mistaken, I think.
And they're 14.
Oklahoma lost to Baylor, and they're 14, but Ohio State's still sitting pretty at 7.
And they have a loss to what, number 10 Oregon and number 2 Michigan.
Yeah.
So 2 top 10 losses there.
Yeah, those are quality losses, man. Quality losses are important, guys. Like, what's more important than a quality loss in this system?
They still don't manage to jettison Texas A&M out of the top 25 after they lose to LSU. I know we already talked about that, but
trash.
You got them.
Garbage.
4 loss A&M. So stupid.
Like, and what? How many losses does SMU have now? Like
3.
So it'd be a
SMU
stretch
did that
to put
themselves, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
What the Memphis one? Like, that can't happen.
I mean, Clemson has 3 losses as well.
Yep.
Yeah, welcome back, Clemson.
Yeah, they come back in. Can't leave them out for too long.
Can we get audio of the Welcome Back Cotter theme song with the new toys? I think that would fit for you. Like, we tease him a lot because we got him on the spot. Welcome back. For every time that you like freeze and go away.
Yeah, we can work on that for next week.
Okay, sweet.
All right.
But I mean, it comes down to, obviously there are very large implications that are gonna roll out over what I get. Well, the Pac-12 championship is on Friday. That's not really gonna have any implications as far as who gets in, and then hopefully Oklahoma State loses at noon on Saturday, so we don't have to worry about that. I wish they would have pushed the AAC game back at to 7:30, so it could be a true nip at night.
Instead, we get another nip slip.
Rock hard nip.
Aaron, are you trying? Aaron's trying to make the nip slip a thing.
I mean,
I kind of like it.
It's like just a little peek at nip at night. It's fine.
Well, no, it's here's the thing. It's a sneaky nip at night because it starts during the day, right?
Yeah, and
you're not anticipating nip at night, and then you come out at halftime, boom, nip at night.
I just want, I really, really want the head to toe black uniforms.
You have to.
I hope
black everything.
All black head to toe. Let's just do it. I wouldn't even be upset if they came out with the throwback UC helmets, the ones with the U and the C.
Chad's like
walking away, yelling
17
trash.
feet away from wherever his mic is right now. It's fantastic. So we have the matchups here this weekend, and where, Jeff, while we have Ed actually doing audio with us, where, Ed, do you think that UC is going to end up falling after this championship? And like, do you think it's going to be where they
landing? Where are they going to land?
I mean, yeah,
let's not use that other word.
Yeah, I don't. That's on me, right? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, you just got to do this like point thing. I think
it's on me.
It's on me.
It's on me.
What you got, Ed? You think they're gonna stay at 4?
Put this back up.
I think they stay at 4, yes, but
so you can see it and make.
There's some things I guess that depend on it.
Well, absolutely. It depends on where Alabama drops if they lose to Georgia. It depends on if Iowa knocks out Michigan. It depends on if Baylor knocks out Oklahoma State.
Right, but I still have it in my head that somehow they're going to screw us out of it. So I'm trying to like figure out how they're going to screw us out of it.
I just gave you literally all the opportunities they had. If Oklahoma,
there's going to be a different way. There's going to be like a Cincinnati way they screw us out of it. Like they're going to be like, oh well, this happened. So there was talk about Luke Fickell leaving, and so now the players just really don't believe in him. So we're going to take him out because there's no way. It'd be something stupid.
That would be asinine.
Or like let's see. Yeah, I don't know.
What you got, Jeff?
I don't know another way.
So I've got some questions that I don't know that. Okay, we know Georgia's defense is really good.
Correct.
Right? I mean, we saw it. We saw it last year. And
by the way, I think I
year.
read this week that they had 13. I think somebody was different.
Yeah,
13 starters out. 17 starters out. However many.
You can't talk to.
Are we doing this already?
Like out of nowhere, like after the game in January, like they were even like leading up to the game, there were like interactions with Georgia fans that I had on like Twitter and things were like cordial and whatever. Like there have been some Georgia fans crawling out of the woodwork to say some really ridiculous stuff. Like
13. No, you
like,
had 4
like one guy was like basically saying that they had to go get like a bunch of kids from like a local Georgia high school to play to field a team against UC. It was just ridiculous, the things that I've been seeing on Twitter. And like I started to like try to tell him like no, like they were missing probably a couple more guys than UC, but UC was also missing like some All-Americans and then an offensive lineman that got ejected, and like all these guys minus Sauce who will end up in the NFL, but the rest of them have all played in the NFL this year. So like UC was missing some people. It wasn't like they were missing. The one guy's like, oh, they were just missing a quarterback that entered the transfer portal. No, that was not the only person that wasn't playing for UC that day. Like, I don't understand why you want to like minimize
James Wiggins, Defoe, Sauce. Just all Americans and all conference players.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No. You can't talk about that. So the Alabama Georgia game, from what I've seen from Alabama, at least, I don't think Georgia's gonna.
Jared Jokes, not Mike Warren. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. I don't think that Georgia should lose that game. So I think we can hopefully put that to rest. That's probably a prime time, like 7:30 game, isn't it?
It's also basically it is, but no, actually, it goes up against us. Georgia and Alabama goes up against us in that 4:00 spot.
Okay.
One's on NBC and we're on ABC. But Georgia,
did you guys not hear me when I walked away?
I mean, we can
we heard you.
Like say like, bye. But no, Georgia, they're playing in Atlanta
again.
So
yeah,
you're basically having a home game for all of Athens, just migrating to Atlanta, and I don't think Alabama's going to fare well. I think they'll have a cheering section, but they are not going to be the overwhelming presence there. I mean, I know it's a neutral site, but I don't think the Bulldogs, especially sitting at number 1, are going to allow that to be a neutral site.
And then you got Michigan, Iowa, which
way better matchup than it would have been Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Ohio State probably would have been just fine there, right?
I think they would have dog walked them.
So I think the Iowa-Michigan game is almost a toss-up. How that could go. Obviously, it would benefit UC greatly if Iowa can knock off Michigan. How far do they drop depending on how much they get beat by and other games that go on around them? And then
Michigan's out if they lose.
Right. And then you've got UC Houston, and Houston is number 21. Huh?
Michigan's favored 10.5 points right now, and 76.5 by ESPN's FPI.
And that's a
so that means they have to win by 10 or less, right?
That means that if you're
10 or more.
10 or more, damn it.
Well, 11 or more if it's 10.5.
Well, yeah.
11 or more.
So then obviously we can skip Alabama because they're playing Georgia.
Ed,
UC's got Houston.
Ed, if you're favored by 10.5, okay, that means the other team starts the game 10.5 to nothing. So you have to
makes
make
more sense
up the 10.5.
That makes more sense now.
I'm glad we got some common ground on that.
That makes more sense now. Yeah.
And then we've got our game, which is no doubt a must win. Like UC they have to win it. I don't know that they have to win by 30 or
There's
40
no style
points.
points. Like it just win.
Not according to Joey Galloway.
Yeah, Joey Galloway did again say that UC was going to need style points. We hate style points here at PTP.
Here's where Joey Galloway's right. If Alabama, Michigan, and Oklahoma State win, we're going to be sweating at noon on Sunday.
Yes.
Sweating.
We already knew that, though. That's not news.
Okay, but here's where he's right. If Cincinnati wins that game by 30, how are you going to jump or how are you going to drop them out, right? If they win the game by 4, then it's gonna be a sweat on Sunday, like a big sweat, big sweat. So in that scenario, he's right. If the other 3 things all happen, Alabama wins, Michigan wins, Oklahoma State wins, we're gonna be uncomfortable Sunday at noon. Unless the thing is, even if they blow Houston out, we're still going to be sweating at noon on Sunday.
because then they're gonna bring in the fact that you've got, but what would make that even more ridiculous is then you would have a Georgia team who undoubtedly has been number 1 all year, right, and hasn't lost yet, and so they lose in the SEC championship. I hate the idea that a team can be in the top 4 in the CFP without being their conference champion. I just hate that idea.
Yeah, I do too. But money talks.
Right. I get
Ohio State's
why,
done it,
and I understand why, and I see these things, but like
Georgia's not falling out with 1 loss. Like they're not.
Let me put it to you this way. Let's say Michigan beats Iowa by like 35. Alabama smokes Georgia. Let's say they hold them to like 3 points, and they score like, I don't know, 50.
That's not happening with their
well, I realize that.
Go on.
I'm just saying, if we're gonna
hypotheticals, Aaron.
If we're gonna live in the land of make believe right now, let's talk about it. Is there any way that Georgia falls out if Alabama just absolutely mops the floor with them?
I don't think so. They've been that far ahead as the number 1 team all year long.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're like the farthest Ohio State got dominated by Michigan, right? And they fell to 7 from 2 to 7. Georgia's been so good the entire time. I can't see them falling any farther than 4.
Well, and
even if Alabama beats the shit out of them.
We brought this up earlier, Chad. When Alabama lost to an unranked at the time Texas A&M, they only dropped to 6, and Ohio State lost to
number 5
ranked Michigan and drops to 7.
on the road in a rivalry game.
How are you justifying Alabama only dropping to 6 when you lose to an unranked team that early in the season, even if you were number 2?
Because they're Alabama.
It's dog shit.
It's dog shit, but at that point in time, the reality is, like, Alabama over the past month has shown us who that team is. At the time, they hadn't shown us. I mean, I think they had the close game with Florida at that point in time.
Yeah. They
the
almost
loss
got
to
beat
Texas
by
A&M.
Florida.
But we didn't know Florida was trash at that point in time. And they're still getting the benefit of the doubt for being Alabama.
I don't like it.
I don't like it either, but guess what, Aaron?
I know.
If UC had the most dominant decade run in the history of college football, we would be pissed when they didn't get the benefit of the doubt.
I'm just glad that we're not those fans yet.
I love it.
So, but then you get to UC, and obviously UC's got to take care of business against Houston, and then Oklahoma State and Baylor, which is probably the biggest toss-up of all of them.
So back to the question I asked 15 minutes ago, it feels like at this point. Where do you see Cincinnati landing when
I think when this all shakes out, UC's 3. I think that's probably where UC goes.
Okay.
Because if Michigan wins,
so we're going to Dallas.
Okay, so if Michigan wins,
Arlington, I'm sorry.
If Michigan wins, they stay at 2. Obviously, this is assuming Alabama loses. UC moves up, and then if Oklahoma State wins, they move up. I think that they're going to play that card and keep Notre Dame out, regardless. Obviously, they don't have a game to play this weekend to show anything additional.
And Alabama out.
I mean, who else? I mean, I guess then you're looking at if a Baylor team beats Oklahoma State, Ole Miss doesn't play, Ohio State doesn't play, Notre Dame doesn't play. Is there a path that Baylor jumps from 9 up to 4?
Nope.
And skips all. So they at that point then they have to move a non-playing team, an idle team, as it were,
without a coach.
I don't think. I think then that they move Ohio State.
Yeah.
Because
Ohio State's only 2 losses are to Michigan and to Oregon.
And I think honestly, the only way that they, let's say that little scenario I just played out happens, the only way that they allow Notre Dame to move up into the CFP is if Notre Dame has named a coach and it's an internal candidate to keep, so that they can say that the flow of, the continuity of the program is still there. There's no big shakeup within the coaching staff. It's, business as usual without the game manager, the program manager, whatever you want to call what Brian Kelly does, because he's not a player's coach. And that was brought up a lot last night too. The CEO of the program isn't there, but the new one is, and his name is Marcus Freeman.
I'll say the only way that I think that we get in is at number 4. I don't think there's a shot in hell that they put us any higher than 4. I think that they're going to be forced to put us at 4 due to whatever happens this weekend. I know that which game is it? One of them, I think it's Baylor. No, we talked about the spread on that one, right? That was 10.5. One of them was only 5.5.
That's probably the Oklahoma State Baylor game. 10.5 was Michigan, Iowa.
Then it was the Oklahoma State Baylor game.
Can you hear me now?
The audio is kind of strange, and it sounds
I'm trying to mess with these AirPods. I'm using the AirPods on a laptop.
It sounds like something's going through a dryer cycle. To be completely honest with you.
How about now?
Nothing.
Is that better?
But in any case, I mean, so if I
can't use the AirPod microphone. I can use the earphones.
Yeah,
the AirPod microphone doesn't work on
horrible. No,
it's Apple.
Okay, Ed.
It's Apple.
Settle down.
Apple's right, Ed.
Anyway, No, AirPods, anything wireless trying to do a podcast of any sort is going to have horrendous audio.
I've done the last like 3 podcasts on my
AirPods
iPad with the AirPods, and it's been fine. But taking the AirPods into PC, not so much.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Not
But yeah, I don't think there's a shot in hell that they allow Cincinnati to move past that 4 spot, regardless of whatever outcomes shake out.
So you're saying that if Oklahoma State loses,
they jump us.
If they lose?
No, if Oklahoma State beats Baylor, they jump us. If they lose, if Alabama loses, I just
then you're gonna move. You're gonna you're gonna jump UC with an idle team.
I don't know that they're going to put Cincinnati any higher than 4. I think they don't want to let us. They don't want to let us even into the club. We got in because we had the hot girl.
They believe that we'll get curb stomped by Georgia, so they want UC to play Georgia.
Correct.
I get what he's saying.
Like they don't want us in their club at all.
But you think that there is a way that they can say that an idle team that is, let's say,
I don't think Oklahoma State's going to lose.
2 spots behind them.
I don't think Oklahoma State's going to lose.
I can see them jumping UC with Oklahoma State, unless like UC absolutely blows out Houston and is like,
and
you know what I mean? Like,
truthfully, I wouldn't be shocked if this was the year that we saw the first 2-loss team in. Alabama gets the 4 spot and Cincinnati's left out.
No,
I hope that's not the case because
not from 3, man. If they wanted to do that, they would have put Alabama at 2 and Michigan at 3. So you gave some space. If Cincinnati wins, Alabama loses, there's no way Alabama's in over Cincinnati. They can't justify it.
I hope not.
They couldn't justify moving an idle team above UC either.
I hope not. I hope I'm very wrong.
Win and have any of the 3 things happen.
Michigan, Alabama, Oklahoma State lose.
Yeah, one of the 3. As long as one of the 3 lose and Cincinnati wins, Cincinnati's in. If all 3 win, we're going to be sweating on Sunday. That's it.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to this game against Houston with Dana Holgerson already bitching about the unfair advantage that Cincinnati has hosting the game. Obviously, he
knows he's coming to get his whooping.
He also has to be happier than a pig in shit with everything going on right now that Cincinnati has going on with Luke Fickell and the distraction that is going on with Luke Fickell and Cincinnati and all of that, to where like even Des Ridder is being asked ridiculous questions by members of Cincinnati's media who will remain nameless. I don't like when people play that game with the kids, especially, I guess.
But I think UC's in a spot though with the amount of seniors that they have and the experience that's there, and you've got guys that are going into their like 15th year of college. They're gonna be all right. Like it's all good. It's all good. They're gonna be able to,
I think they
realize
they found ways to win all year.
Even if you go back to like when Brian Kelly left here, and the night that he left, Marty Gilliard was beside himself, right? We all remember the quick interview he did where he's like, I went in, and they're like, well, what did he say? And he said, I heard enough. Like, I went in, he said he was going to Notre Dame. I walked out. I got
seashells and all.
I gotta go take care of these. And then when they interviewed him again at the Sugar Bowl, he was a little more toned down. He was like, I might have like flown off the handle a little bit there. Like,
good old Marty.
He's got to take care of his family, whatever. Like, I think these guys are beyond that, to the point where they'll be all right. They can kind of box that out. They know that if they win on Saturday, take care of business, they've got a shot at doing something that, know their UC team is really done, and no other group of 5 team has ever done. I hate that thing too, but whatever.
Ooh, the forecast has changed for Saturday, guys. Have you seen this?
No, it's gonna be cold.
Snow
50
game?
degrees, sunny,
But rain.
a few clouds, north winds 5 to 10 miles an hour.
All right.
It sounds like a delightful day in Nippert Stadium.
For a nice little nip slip.
If Cincinnati loses Saturday, they are out of the New Year's Six.
Correct.
Who slides?
The highest rated conference champion in the G5.
Oh, it's got to be conference champion.
For the G5 spot, yes. Now, I guess there's an opening where Cincinnati could get an at-large. But those at-large spots are limited. I mean,
so it'd be tough.
There is a
BYU,
path.
Because what BYU is also, well, I guess they're
BYU is
independent,
not
so
a
they
G5.
don't count. Yeah, they're independent, so
They're not in the conference. So to get the G5 spot, the G5 spot is the highest rated group of 5 conference champion. If Cincinnati loses, they would not be a group of 5 conference champion. They would not be eligible for the G5 spot. They could get in as an at-large. I guess, probably.
I mean, it would depend on how far they drop. I mean, if Ohio State dropped after losing to Michigan to number 7, I think they would.
But Aaron, you're dealing with guaranteed spots, so the
my
at-large
point-
spots are very limited.
I understand. My point of dropping Cincinnati is they're going to boot us all the way back to like 15 or something. We're not going to be one of the at-large teams. I don't.
Yeah, Houston's now ranked high enough. You're not sending Cincinnati from 4 to 15. You got to take your tinfoil. Is that hat made of tinfoil?
No, it's. I mean, it was one of the ones from the Pardon the Punctuation apparel website, which you can find on our Twitter handle. But
PTP Cincy.
Did you put tinfoil on the inside of that hat?
No, it's a trucker hat. You'd be able to see it.
Not really from that angle. Like, I think that there could still be tinfoil inside there.
No way, man. No way.
You are all in on the conspiracy theories.
I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart anyway, so that should surprise no one who actually knows me.
Is what it is.
So outside of that, I mean, I don't know that there's anything else that I want to cover with Cincinnati because I feel like it's literally all I've been doing is refreshing Twitter all day. All day.
You want to
trade? I did see that Dick Vitale is pushing for Marcus Freeman to be the next coach at Notre Dame. So I mean, we got that going for us.
That's like a big thing. A lot of these, like, you got recruits that are saying it. You've got, apparently it's a pretty big push internally. Was it Jack Collinsworth tweeted out?
I've been liking any player who has a picture with Marcus Freeman, just making sure to hit that like.
Freeman era.
All day. Let's go. Let's go. Every player with their picture with Marcus Freeman.
I mean, and then I did see like somebody, maybe it was Aaron was saying that he thought that, Marcus Freeman would be, the guy up there that would still recruit and hang out and basically keep. I don't see Marcus Freeman being a guy that wants to sit around and keep somebody else's seat warm in South Bend.
Oh, I never said that.
Maybe it wasn't you then.
No,
I think somebody that was like adamant.
He's the one keeping the recruits there. If he stays, like,
right.
For now,
he would have to be staying as the head coach. He wouldn't be staying.
I was going back and forth with somebody, and I just said I don't see Marcus Freeman as being somebody at this point in his career sitting around keeping a seat warm for somebody else to then kind of reprise his role. I also don't think that he would go to LSU with Brian Kelly to be a defensive coordinator and get paid a bunch of money if, let's say, Luke Fickell then ends up at Notre Dame,
right?
And the head coaching spot opens up here.
I said this on the radio today, Jeff. I have had this conversation with Marcus Freeman. He wants to be a head coach.
That's what I mean. It was pretty clear when he was here that
he loves being a defensive coordinator.
Sure.
Unequivocally, the guy's goal is to be a head coach. And I can say that as someone who had Marcus Freeman tell me his desire at this point in his career is to be a head coach. That's not speculation. That's not like hearsay. That's not, I heard from somebody who heard from. I talked to Marcus Freeman, and Marcus Freeman told me, I want to be a head coach. Now, like ASAP. So if I'm wrong on that, then Marcus Freeman's a liar. That's not my fault.
I think it's interesting that Ohio State fans are starting to chirp too, saying that Ohio State needs to drop the bag and bring Marcus Freeman on board as the highest paid DC in the country. They've certainly had some struggles there, so that would be extra interesting.
I don't know. I would honestly, like, at this point, I think I would be surprised if we go through this weekend without Notre Dame
making a move
of some sort.
Agree.
And whether that is coming after Luke, with really regardless of what happens.
I mean, you still have to win. I don't know, man. You talked about the seniors and everything. You got 30 seniors on this team. They all came back for Luke. And if they win on Saturday, there's no way he gives up on those 30 seniors, just knowing the kind of character that he is. Like, I certainly don't think
he's not cut from the same cloth as one Brian Kelly.
Hell no. Hell no.
So
in any case,
and like we started out when, Chad said from the start when he posed the question, would Brian, everybody likes to ask the question all the time, like, if that pass in the, what was it, Texas? I don't even know who Texas was. Nebraska was Texas, Nebraska. If that ball, hangs up for an extra second, and now UC is in the national title game, Brian Kelly was still gone.
Yeah,
and probably before the national title game.
It's just gross. It's just gross. So, since we last talked, we were coming off the win against Illinois as we did our live stream watching the Arkansas game in a heartbreaker loss, as they just kind of fell off at the end.
Yeah, kind of ran out of steam.
They did. But Monmouth on Saturday. Did you guys watch the game?
I did not.
You were working? Ed, what were your thoughts watching the game on Saturday?
So if you remember last week, I said I was not really concerned about the Xavier game after beating Illinois. I might have a little concern again. It did not seem like Victor had picked up much. Davenport's still struggling, although he had 6 points, something like that. He's still struggling. Huh?
That's not an although. That's 6 is not good.
Yeah. Free throws, they're struggling as well, but that's been a Bearcat thing for years. It didn't seem like a clean game, the whole game. It just did not seem like they ever, how in Illinois we went on drives and stuff. We never went on a drive, it felt like.
We went on droughts.
Droughts, exactly, is what we went on.
I thought they had I thought I read that they had like a 26-3 run or something crazy in the middle of the game, and then that was like it. Is that not right?
There was. I was looking at something I had an alert on my phone. What did you say?
UC in the UC Monmouth game. I thought UC did go on like a pretty substantial run, kind of like in the middle of the game. That could be wrong. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to watch the game.
I don't know what the actual run was. It was bad. Cincinnati only scored 1 point in 7 minutes, I think was the actual at one point. Like I said, they went on complete droughts. And Ed was bringing up free throw percentage. I know I talked about it last night on the BBP, but 9 of 20 from free throw for the game. In the second half, I believe it was 1 for 10. And or maybe it was either 1 of 10 or 2 of 10. I don't recall off the top of my head. but that's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. They finished 4 of 28 from 3. I know you said Davenport had 6 points. He did on 2 of 10 shooting, 0 for 6 from 3. That's, again, not good. They just seem sluggish, and I don't know if that had to do with the fact that Madsen got the start at the 3 because Newman was injured. It's just not what you want to see. I know it was Wes Miller's younger brother probably playing and trying to get his team hyped up for a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Like,
speaking of which, all the height genes.
I don't know what happened. I don't know, and I wish Chad was here. I know he had to go make sure Kelly was good. But I don't know if they're actually full blood brothers or if it's a half brother or step brother type thing. Because I didn't see,
and I'm not actually sure if that if his brother is really like actually that tall, or if it's just because he was standing next to Wes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was interesting.
Feels like you're reaching on that one.
He's 6'10". I'm looking it up right now. He's listed as 6'10" and 230. So he is what I would consider tall.
Yeah,
2 inches shy of that 7 foot mark. Yeah, Cincinnati's going to get their just the doors blown off of them if they play the way they did Saturday against Xavier. They, after the game, Wes Miller did. He was on the show on 700 as he always is, and he took the blame. He said that this one's on me, and this is my fault. I didn't have the guys prepared enough. I said it again last night on the BBP, but you can't use that excuse really more than once, maybe twice in a season. Like you played that card, so you got to make sure that you have the guys ready to go, or you got to figure out what the hell you're going to say when you realize like maybe your team isn't what you thought it was. I don't think that's the case because obviously you didn't see that happen against Illinois. They figured out a way to be one of the best players in the country.
You didn't see that really happen against Arkansas
right.
either. I think, obviously I didn't watch the game.
Right.
I heard from a lot of
box
people.
Score, Jeff, what you got?
Yeah, I heard from a lot of people who were watching it that were sending me messages and kind of keeping me updates and stuff like that. It seems like when this team got put together, we all kind of expected things like this to happen, right? Like that they were going to struggle here and there, maybe struggle against teams they shouldn't. We wouldn't think that a UC team would struggle against, or a team that they won't struggle against once Wes Miller gets all of his pieces in place and everything's running and gunning. But then we started off 5-0 and we beat an Illinois, and Georgia's picked to be at the bottom of the barrel in the SEC, whatever. We beat a Georgia, we beat an Illinois, we go toe to toe with Arkansas.
So
and we're all on this upswing of like, oh my God, like they might actually be like a whole lot better than we thought. Maybe they're gelling like right now, and then maybe there's this game pops up against Monmouth and they lay an egg and end up losing by 2, and that sucks. But it's kind of one of those growing pains things that's going to happen when you are a new coach putting in a brand new system with essentially a whole bunch of new guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have Miami, who's 5-1 tomorrow, in Millett Hall at the Miami University in Oxford. Cincinnati right now is only predicted by ESPN's FPI as a 38.3% chance to win. Although Vegas has the game much closer than that, as Cincinnati's favored by 2.5, which is interesting. So I don't know. I mean, Miami also has a guy who's averaging 17.8 points a game in Day Grant. So I don't know. I'm a little nervous about this game tomorrow, but I think this is another good measuring stick game against a team that any other year, you wouldn't look at this as maybe as close a game, but with Wes Miller kind of rebuilding this team, revamping this team, and still picking up the pieces from the previous regime, it should be very interesting to see what Wes Miller is able to put together and run out there tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'll be interested. Obviously, I'll be watching it. I think hopefully we'll see it kind of go back towards the mean of what we've seen so far this year. Obviously, like Monmouth is probably the worst performance thus far, and then you've got like the Illinois, Arkansas other end of things. Hopefully, they land somewhere in the middle of that. And they win the game, and they can kind of take that momentum forward into the rest of the season.
Chad,
the rest of the month.
Chad, you got anything else to add that you didn't say last night on the BBP in regards to the Miami game this week?
Miami's going to be tough. Like that. This is going to be a test of where is this team at, right? Like they're on a 2-game losing streak. They're on the road. They're playing a team that's pretty good. Like I'm not saying Miami's world beaters, but they're pretty good. So they're going to challenge you. They're obviously going to look at this game as a chance to make a name for themselves against Cincinnati. So I think it's going to be tough. It's definitely going to be a challenge, like a great challenge, as Butch Jones would say. He said that about every game that he played. When UC was the head coach, it was kind of a running joke in the media room that every game was a great challenge. I'm really interested to see how Cincinnati handles this, right? Like, how do they handle the adversity of, like I said on the BBP last night, they played 2 teams that realized the scouting report now is out on Cincinnati. If you can equal their toughness, if you can equal their physicality, then you got a chance to beat them. And the last 2 teams did that. Right. This is not a great offensive team. It is not going to be a great offensive team. There is a reason Wes Miller went out in the 2022 class and recruited scoring ability because he knew this is not a team with a great deal of just natural ability to score.
Which, by the way, the highlights from Josh Reed that came out today, I think I saw him on Twitter, just hitting everywhere. That's gonna be a dude.
Yeah, and Daniel Skillings is gonna be a dude.
That's not even bringing up Daniel Skillings.
and Sage Tolentino is a guy with offensive skill that can stretch the floor.
Dog.
So, but Wes knew what his team needed, and he went out and he got it. But that should also tell you he knew what this team doesn't have.
Yeah.
What they have is depth and toughness, and they play hard, and they're going to get after you. And if you can match that, then you're going to present a problem for Cincinnati.
So
Monmouth did that. Arkansas did that. Miami's probably going to do that as well. A couple things. It was a 23-6 run, Jeff.
There it is.
That they had from the end of the first half into the start of the second half when they took the 12-point lead. And then they went cold. And Aaron,
they did have like a 7-minute stretch where they only scored like 1 point, right?
Yeah, when they went cold.
Yeah.
And Aaron, it is the Danco Transmission BBP podcast. Ed?
Write that down.
Check out Danco Transmissions in Fairfield. Mention the Bearcat Bounce podcast and save $10 on your oil change or service.
You can also say BBP as opposed to BCB or whatever you put on Twitter earlier today.
It's there in Fairfield, located at the old Ford dealership, just to the left of the bowling alley.
Nailed it.
You've been there, Ed.
I've driven past it many times.
Are you going to go there for your car service needs now?
If I'm in Fairfield, yeah.
Okay.
So let me play devil's advocate and ask you a
To
hypothetical.
my brother
Chad.
there.
Let's say that Cincinnati drops this one to Miami, and knowing that you have Xavier looming on the horizon, and knowing how rabid this fan base can be, do you think that after I don't know what's going to happen with Xavier, but if we did lose to Miami, how quickly do you think people, as welcomed as Wes was, and how we all talked about how much we just loved all the moves that he was making, how quickly do you think that this fan base could potentially turn on Wes Miller?
They would be ignorant. They would be
I agree.
ignorant.
I agree. I'm not on that bandwagon by any stretch, but we all know how quickly this fan base is to have some type of knee-jerk reaction. Now, I will say that after Mick left with the previous regime, there was quite a bit of leash given. I just worry that leash that was given with that previous regime, I get nervous that they're going to be on a shorter leash with Wes, regardless of the fact that he has done everything right going into the season.
Luke Fickell went 4-8 in his first year and should have went 1-11.
Bingo.
Touche.
Or as my buddy Kevin would say, 100.
Oh. It's so happy with all these new little things he can do.
I'm actually really proud of him for that one. On Bearcat Nation, presented by Bearcat Journal on Facebook. I don't know if you saw the comment earlier this week from somebody during the Monmouth game asking if Kevin Johnson was
yes, I did see that.
If old KJ was the best option that we had to put in the booth, and Mel Levitt said, "Nope." Just found that interesting.
Well, listen, Kevin's fine.
They all want that job, man. They all want that job.
Oh, he advertised himself on Twitter today saying that his recruitment was open 100%.
Kevin's fine. He needs to stop wearing the sunglasses,
the rose-colored lenses.
I don't know if those are transition lenses or what, but comment. But yeah, but I love the 100s.
Leave this comment up here for a second. So, Chad, when you came into the show, this was how in my head before, if you had been with us right when we launched the show, this was how I was going to ask the most important question of the day. By the time you got in and we're having some issues trying to get signed in, we were already in conversation. But the most important question of the day is, what the hell was going on with you and this CJ from Yahoo, who may or may not actually be a Yahoo writer?
No. He claimed to write for Yahoo for 11 years. He never wrote for Yahoo. It's a troll. It's a troll. It's a complete troll. But
he's a Corvette.
I guess I want to know what happened on the radio because I wasn't able to listen because I'm.
I just nothing happened on the radio. I just made fun of him. The guy literally was like, "You're a broke bitch that gets scooped by the Cincinnati 24/7 sports site." And I was like, "I'm the broke bitch that is the 24/7 sports site, you fucking clown."
I'm scooping myself.
Right. Shut up. I know people take me wrong when those things happen, right? They think I'm mad. They think I'm in my feelings. I'm laughing my ass off at the absurdity, the hilarity of it all. It's the dumbest shit ever. I said was somebody was, he reported the same thing he reported a day earlier with Brian Kelly.
Right.
Brian Kelly's about to sign a massive extension with Notre Dame. And
the dude's a clout chaser. That's all it is.
Yeah. And he clout chased the wrong motherfucker.
Corvette.
Because I clap back. That's the thing that those people don't nobody else in the media is like me. There's very few in the media that are like me.
Well, because you don't have anyone you report to.
I'll clap back. And if 24/7 wants to fire me, that's fine. I'll start my own shit and I'll clap back from there. It is like I've built my place in this market to a point that people trust me. They trust my information. And most of my audience understands that I'm entertaining them. Like I'm using the Twitter machine to make you laugh at work in your Corvette, on your house, in the water. He said he lived in the water in LA.
On the water, I believe. I don't know. Who knows? Whatever you're doing out
He's
in
actually
LA.
SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All I know is I was on the golf course today. So, like, I didn't have my phone. Like, I wasn't really doing a whole lot with that. Like, it was, and Aaron called me, and I'm like, I looked down, like, we were heading down, like, I think we had like 1 or 2 holes left. And I sent Aaron a message, like, I'm playing golf. Like, I'll call you as soon as this is over, unless it's like an emergency, like it's something happening, like that needs to be addressed or something. And I get to my truck. And I just see this like a ridiculous amount of messages about like, oh man. So I had to go click through like Chad just smacking this kid around for a while. Like
Jeff, your truck isn't a Corvette.
That's true. Like a domestic cat playing with a ball of catnip. Just knocking it around.
Kid
the hilarious though, so here's the hilarious thing. I got to give you guys a visual aid right now, okay? Hold on 1 second.
I love that I can hear.
So there was so much going on last night.
Stop it, Ed.
There was so much going on last night that I was like, I was in for Mo today from 3 to 6. And normally the night before, like when we get done with this, I'll start planning the show for tomorrow because I'm in for Mo tomorrow. Give me a lot of Reds talk because baseball's about to go on strike tomorrow night. Or a lockout, strike, whatever. And nobody here cares.
How the hell are you going to do a lot of Reds talk when they've made like a backup catcher move?
Because that's my point. Baseball is about to go dead. And Cincinnati's like, what? I don't even, who cares? And this is a baseball town. We're going to talk a lot of Bengals tomorrow. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of Bearcats stuff to talk tomorrow. The Bengals game on Sunday, if you guys want me to hang around, I got lots of thoughts on that.
Can't wait.
So I left my planning sheet for my rundown for the show blank. Usually what I'll do is I'll just take each like time slot, give it like a brief headline, and then go into like a document on a Google Word document on the computer where I go in detail where I'm going to go with each segment, right? So I got there and I was having so much fun messing with this jackass that I booked Tom Loy, which was an awesome interview, and I had Justin Williams scheduled. Justin just called me. So when I'm done making this point, I'm going to have to pause for a second and call Justin back. So if you see me
we said hi.
I'll tell him you said hi.
Thank you. Friend of the show, Justin Williams from The Athletic.
If you're watching on YouTube, this is what my rundown for a 3-hour radio show looked like today because I was having way too much fun clowning someone on Twitter. Are you ready for this?
Can't wait. Tom Loy.
Great notes.
Silly season. Jay Will. That about it.
That's not about it. That is actually it.
There was nothing during the entire 4 o'clock hour. Was it just you and Taryn just listening to music?
No, so I knew I had some Bengal stuff in my head that it didn't make it to this page. Talking about like, are you in? Or do you need a win Sunday to be in? Because I think that's where most fans are at right now in the Bengals, which we'll get to in a little bit. Like, are you 100% invested in the Bengals? Or do you need to see this Chargers game because of what happened after the Ravens game?
So is this where we transition into that, or do you need to go and call Justin right now?
You guys can transition into it. I'm going to go and call Justin.
All right, you go call Justin. We'll talk Bengals, but
this
what a hell of a schedule.
is my show prep for
Because
today.
a troll tried to clout chase and got smacked down.
Tom Lloyd
repeatedly.
Tom Lloyd at 3:15, Silly Season at 3:30, Jay Will at 5:15, and there's not another single fucking note on this entire notepad. I did 3 hours of radio today off the cuff.
I'm so proud of you, Dad.
Because that jackass needed to be put in his place.
Go make your phone call.
I'll make my phone call. I'll be back in a few.
We'll do what we can to stall. All right. So as Chad alluded to,
Corvette off of there.
Jesus. As Chad alluded to, the Bengals played on Sunday.
Oh, did they ever?
Boy.
And it was, I thought the first game against the Steelers was the statement game, and I was corrected by who's the guy who does the show with he's still new-ish, Burleson, Nate Burleson. He said this was the statement game, and I kind of disagreed. I
100% disagree. The first game going
to
Pittsburgh, going
to Baltimore, even I think was another statement game. But this was, we've already proven it to you, and now it's our time to smack you around because we don't believe in you anymore. All these guys are new. Like let's go back a couple of years ago when Cincinnati is kind of like falling into the trap of the silly shit that the Pittsburgh Steelers do on the field and somehow get away with, by the way, like spitting in people's faces and eye jabs and ankle twists, and
coaches pulling people's hair, and
injuries,
running out on quarterbacks, the field, trying to trip people and diving at people's knees,
breaking linebackers' jaws on blindside hits, injuring a punter at one point, like just all the silly shit. Being in your huddle during an injury. And
so the Steelers were always able to just continue to like pick and poke and get
in their head.
They were able to get in their head, and then they were able to cause the Bengals to
implode.
Whatever, have these personal foul penalties, because it's always the second person, right? It's always the second person that gets caught. And since we've brought this up, I'll direct it to a perfect play where Chase Claypool is non-existent in the game.
Well, and that play developed about 2 or 3 plays previous where there was
some jawing going back and forth. I think Claypool, he makes a catch. They're down by like 100 points at this point, and he wants to jaw at like our
Darius Phillips.
At our punt returner, who is also like a
4th or
9th string, DB, whatever that's out there. So you make you go up, you catch with one against him, great, whatever. You want to jaw at him, and then straight up grabs him by the face mask and just throws him into the sideline.
Rips his helmet off in the process.
Right.
Yep.
And Phillips jumps up and goes full bore right at him.
Well, and do you notice who grabbed him?
Chidobe Awuzie. Yep, that guy.
Yes. So
from the Cowboys.
Well, and I think that's an interesting person who grabbed him. And I say that because he is one of the new Bengals who, if you remember when we talked about him on this show as he was signing, he said, coming from Dallas of all places, that he was excited to be a Bengal, and that was all part of the Joe Burrow effect. Like he was not just excited to be a Bengal, he was excited to come to Cincinnati and be a part of the new regime that we were putting in place, because we just got crazy with the defensive money that we spent this offseason. But we did it smartly, signing those tier 2 and tier 3 guys, as opposed to trying to go after one tier 1 guy and then filling out the rest with tier 3 and tier 4 guys.
And Eli Apple, you look at him, you look at Apple, you look at Awuzie, Hendrickson. These are all guys
Hilton.
God, can't forget him. Six Hilton.
Picks against his former team.
Oh man, was that just sweet? I mean, we can keep getting like pulled off on all these tangents, but I know that it was tweeted out. I think it was probably Ed that did it from our account. Is Eli Apple the most improved?
That was me.
I mean, he's getting all kinds of props all over the place. I mean, he had his first pick as a Bengal last week against the Raiders, right?
Yes.
And then this week, did he have another pick this week? He had another pick this week?
Yes.
And he's playing pretty well.
Well, considering the fact that he was a first-round draft pick when he came out of Ohio State to the Giants, and he was cut by the Giants. Like, he was just gone. It wasn't like they just didn't want him anymore. And you bring in a first round talent, and you tap back into that talent. You find a way to motivate him. And by the way, Lou Anarumo was his coach in New York. Who let's talk about Lou for a second. Lou's done a hell of a job, considering the hand that he was dealt when he got here. When you have a skeleton crew of coaches that you've put together, because Zach was so late because of the Rams Super Bowl coming in as a head coach, and you put together this coaching staff of the island of misfit toys, essentially the people that nobody wanted because they were all the last ones picked on the dodgeball line. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Not to use 7 analogies at the same time, but
I mean, and while we're talking about like all these things with the Bengals, if you saw the play where TJ Watt, Burrow throws his pick, TJ Watt
right before the pick six, actually,
right before the pick six, Burrow, they're driving down to do what this Bengals team does, which is score points in the last 2 minutes of the first half.
Sure as shit do.
I believe they have 40 points they've scored in the last 2 minutes of the first half.
I think that was crazy. I think that was the stat they dropped during the game. I don't think that counted the pick six.
It did. And so
now we
there
have
you go.
more.
So now you're up to 47. So you've got that. I personally myself, I thought that this Bengals team was trending in the right direction, right? Obviously with the Burrow decision, like, okay, we're going with Joe Burrow. This is going to be our guy. We're going to build around him. And they have. But I thought maybe this year, and I guess it still could potentially, the Cincinnati fan in me, like this whole thing's going to fall apart and they're going to lose every game, from here on out. But I don't see that.
No, they're built
I
different.
Think that they just act different. Like you see, like the way that they interact on Twitter, the way that they like.
There's a swagger we've never had here.
If you see the Joe Mixon run where he cut back, he was going to his left, he cut back. It was like a 38-yard run. Chase and Burrow were both running down the field. I don't know.
Blocking.
Like Burrow didn't get down to block anybody. He was a couple steps behind, but he was coming full speed, and Chase was. And as Mixon goes out of bounds, Chase was like jumping up and down like a kid in a candy store with like the excitement level. Like you just don't get. And maybe one day it rears its ugly head, but I don't see it happening where they're all genuinely excited for each other. They just want to win. And they just want to win, and they don't care who gets to wear the whatever you want to call it, the jacket for winning the game or having the best game. They don't care. They don't care who's named as that.
And obviously Joe Burrow, we talk about the Joe Burrow effect, and that's a very real thing. I don't want that to be lost in any of what I'm about to say. But Mixon started this season, well, even when Joe got here, he's been just kind of like beating the Bengals drum, like, come on to Cincinnati. He's recruiting people on Twitter, for God's sake. Joe has a game in this game. He didn't have to do much. But Cincinnati wins 41-10, hosting the Steelers, and Joe goes 20-24 for 190 yards. But Joe Mixon went off, and this is, I don't recall how many 100-yard games he's had at this point, but this was his career day for Cincinnati. He's not had a better day. 165 yards on 28 carries for an average of 5.9 against the Steelers, who are traditionally touted as being a stop defense. Like they figure out how to stop you in every case. So he did have 2 scores as well. I mean, the long he did have, Jeff, by the way, was 32. So I'm assuming that's the run you were talking about. But I mean, and to Joe's credit, he spread the ball out so much. When he left the game, he had hit 7 receivers. It wasn't him going to chase all day, as it has been, him trying to kind of force the ball to chase as they were going into the bye. They were starting to get into this routine where they were starting to try and force the ball to Jamar Chase, because he had been the guy. But, they talked about during the broadcast that during the bye week, they went back and watched the games that they won, and they tried to get back to the things that they were doing well and the things they were doing right. And they tried to get back to that post-bye week. And I think it's worked out well. I know we talked earlier in the season about Zach Taylor maybe not being the guy, maybe not needing to call the offense. You know what? You're doing all right now, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I don't know who the defensive back was that they keep picking on. I had to go and look that up and
I got
tweet
you.
it out. There's a defensive back that they continually
James
pick
Fear.
on. Okay, that's who it is. Poor guy.
42, I think was his
if
number.
you watch the play where Higgins went down, and I guess it was like a baby moss because the DB was going to the ground and he went up and got it. But you've got a little Jamar Chase effect.
I thought you were referring
safety.
I thought you were referring to Thaddeus, since he was playing in the game as an actual baby moss.
I was going to say he got promoted up for his first game.
Made his Bengals debut.
If you watch on that one, because sometimes people clip that all 22. I guess it's part of the NFL Network thing or whatever. But you could see the safety on that is shading to the Jamar Chase side, right? And that's okay. Go ahead. Jamar Chase is perfectly fine doing that, and he could probably win several jump balls against 2 defenders, but he doesn't need to, because then you can throw the ball right back over to the other side to T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd. Anybody. There's so many weapons.
Yes. So I know I did tweet out from the PTP Twitter page, but Eli Apple, yes, I think he would absolutely be in consideration for the most improved player, but there is another name to consider alongside him, and that's got to be Logan Wilson, right?
Dog.
Yeah, because he's everywhere. He's always in the play. I mean, even if he's not the one making the tackle, he's always at the ball.
He's a quintessential guy that people say that dude plays with his hair on fire. From the time the ball snapped until the whistles are blowing, he is where he's supposed to be and gets there right now.
Yeah.
I had a very difficult time picking, and it's only because they didn't have his jersey in my size. It was between Logan Wilson and Joe Burrow, because they don't make a McPherson jersey stitched yet. I guess
you'll probably get it at Cook's.
I went in there to ask. They said probably not till next year.
All right. They may have some agreements with the Bengals pro shop to where they can't do certain things, and that may be one of them. You can probably do your own thing if you can show your ID that your name is actually McPherson.
I might go get a fake ID.
Easy, McLovin. Settle down.
Right. And then speaking of McPherson, that's a weapon.
We as a show never knocked the Bengals for making that pick.
We didn't.
We just wanted to make sure they kept him.
Right.
Instead of cutting him.
Instead of sending him to a Super Bowl champion team.
I mean, there was that. But that was the coldest game he's probably ever played in.
Probably.
Kid played.
I don't know. I don't know.
He went to college at Florida.
Right. I mean, is he?
You're only playing SEC teams down there.
what is he, a Florida kid? Like, he didn't like. If he played high school football in like Minnesota, like,
does he even remember at this point what
I don't know.
that felt like?
But his ability to just get out there and like, if he can kick 50-yard plus field goals on that godforsaken turf in Las Vegas, he can hit them anywhere.
Well, he hit him in
barring like 80-mile-an-hour winds.
He hit him in the cow pasture known as Heinz Field. So,
I mean,
the place sucks.
Thanks, Ed.
So I don't know, man. I'm. You can't not be hyped about this Bengals team.
Well,
I'm excited.
Obviously, from what we've like discussed here, where like literally we can't finish a thought on one person because somebody else comes up that.
Yep.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it goes to like what Drew Brees said, that the Bengals are the most complete team in the AFC.
Ed, what you got on the Bengals? What did you see when you were watching on Sunday?
Resiliency. No fear. Like, they had no fear going against the Steelers. They had no fear putting the ball up in the air. They had no fear running the ball. Freaking Mixon looks beautiful running the ball. Like, he is all over the place. The defense, I mean, what was it? 2 turnovers in the first half, something like that. 1 return for a touchdown. I mean, it's not the Bengals team that we're used to. And like you said earlier, are we waiting for the other shoe to drop? And, then they go lay a goose egg. Who knows?
I loved getting to listen to you think that one out. That was fun.
Thank you. That's how I do that very much.
All right, Chad, we've been talking Bengals, and you're back.
I'm back.
First and foremost, do we need to drop anything in regards to the conversation you had with Justin?
No, nothing major. It was like Justin and I usually have nightly conversations.
That's okay.
About things.
I won't pry any more than that.
No, if there was something good, if there was something spicy, like McDonald's spray, I would have dropped it. But you realize that's like that's a Dragonfly Jones thing, right?
I don't
know
who you're referring to right now.
My kid calls soda spicy.
What's Dragonfly Jones even?
You don't know the Jenkins and Jones podcast?
No.
Oh boy, you guys are missing out. It's one of the better like follows on Twitter, Dragonfly Jones. He's phenomenal. And he's turned it into, the guy had like a normal 9-to-5 day job, and he was so good on Twitter. Let me hold on a second.
Ed, write that down.
Why he's pulling that out. Shout out to Mr. Gillian. Remember him from high school?
Yeah.
He listens to the show.
All right.
Well, he used to.
Dragonfly Jones turned a desk job into 208,000 followers on Twitter.
Jeez.
Just getting these tweets off, right? Like he's that good at Twitter. He was just getting these tweets off while he was at work. And he's got 208,000 followers.
Yeah,
can we go back to Ed?
You missed.
Yeah, go ahead. I missed the Ed thing.
What do you mean? Shout out to Mr. Gillian. He listens to the podcast. At least he used to.
Well, so Greg works with him now, and he said that he told Greg, "Hey, I listen to your brother's podcast." Well,
not anymore, apparently. So,
well, he couldn't get in his rotation.
All right.
I told him I'd give him a shout out in the next show if he put us in the rotation.
Unbelievable.
So I'm just trying to get us in the rotation.
One listener at a time.
That's what I'm talking about. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean, or maybe not.
Hey, Mister. Okay.
All right. I think we're almost 40 yet. We're allowed to actually say first names. Chad, hey. What were your takes on the Bengals? Because we hit a lot of things, and if you're going on something that we already hit on extensively, we'll stop you there.
They looked like everything we possibly thought was best case scenario for the second time this year, right? Ravens game.
Third? I think it's third.
Yeah, I think the first Steelers game.
The first Steelers game, they looked like everything.
Okay. Maybe the one thought is maybe the Steelers defense is just that bad. Because they had every piece of the puzzle working right? Like
they do have a tie on record.
Okay, Mixon, and then Chase, and then Boyd, and then Higgins, and then Uzama, and then like it was
More
like
Higgins.
surgical. Boom, 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 boom. You can't stop this. You can't stop that. You can't stop this. Oh, you adjusted. This guy's open. Here we go. It was everything everybody ever envisioned when Joe Burrow was drafted, right?
Well, I think it goes beyond Joe. I think it's when Jamar was drafted.
No, I think we all
Fair,
thought
but
that
they
Joe
still had a shit ton of weapons when Jamar was drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jamar has kind of turned into
Sure.
Well, AJ Green should have been.
Well, he's everything that you
be.
want him to be, because now you're creating these things where, and I brought it up a minute ago, where there's a lot of safety help going over to his side of the field.
That's my point.
And leaves like Higgins in a one-on-one, and I'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
Right. So now you have to decide, am I still keeping my safety on the boundary when Higgins is killing me on the field? And then here comes Tyler Boyd in the slot on third down. Bing, bing, bing. Here comes the tight ends. Here comes Mixon. Hopefully Evans is okay. I haven't followed the past couple of days what's going on with the Bengals like super close, because my life has been
Chaos.
pit of insanity for 48 hours. But it was finally, I think, that full representation of why you go after the weapons. Everybody, like, draft the lineman, do the line. And I don't disagree with that you need your line to be good.
This line's been pretty good.
They've been solid, yes. So, like, it's a testament to you make your line better when you have all the weapons, because they can't just load up and come after you, because you're going to make them pay. You're going to make them pay over the middle. You're going to make them pay on the edges. You're going to make them pay over the top. And that's where this offense is. And this defense, here's my thing with the next two, San Diego and San Francisco, right? After that Ravens game, they got too big for their britches.
Agreed.
Can they reel it back in after kicking the Steelers' ass and be under control?
I think they had a reality check.
Surgical. Yeah, of course. Well, we think they had a reality check.
It was
The next two games will show whether or not they did, is my point, because they dominated the Ravens and then fell flat on their face. They dominated the Steelers. Now you have a chance, if you can beat the Chargers, who I think are the Bengals and the Chargers are on the same level, right? You get them at home, you should beat them. Then you get the Niners. If you're 9-4 going into the stretch run, you're in a good spot. Even if those four are not easy, you're in a good spot. If you're 8-5, you're still okay, but you're in that 95 tiebreaker situations, right? That's going on in the AFC right now. If you're 7-7 or 7-6 or whatever, 7-6, oh boy.
So to talk about Chris Evans, he's dealing with an ankle injury as of yesterday. That's all this I can find on Twitter at this point. Also, I know we touted Thaddeus Moss making his debut, but he apparently hurt his hamstring in warmups. So, there is that. I'm assuming that was in warmups yesterday, not in warmups during the game. But
well, it's Tuesday, so
that's what I'm saying.
I don't know that they had warmups yesterday.
Well, this is a report I'm reading from November 29.
Okay. I'm just going by what you said.
I'm just going by the tweet and the date on said tweet.
But he did get called up from the practice squad, so
he just didn't make it to the game.
I don't know if he dressed or not at this point.
Well, he made it to warm-ups. He got hurt in warm-ups, and he was out.
That sucks.
So I'm guessing he had clothes on, but I don't know if it was a Bengals uniform.
So I don't know. I mean, what do you think the ceiling on this team is? Can they make a playoff run, Chad, or do you or Jeff? What do you think for this season, at least, is the ceiling for this team?
I mean, I think we've kind of seen what they're capable of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can go into Baltimore and destroy them. We know the Steelers aren't, the Steelers of old, but they did take care of business. But we also know what the other stuff they put on tape against the Browns.
Well,
so I think as far as ceiling goes, I would like to say that I think that they could make a decent playoff run. They could maybe go as far as breaking the old curse and winning us a playoff game this year. But we probably need to see what happens in the next 2 weeks to know if they are able to be consistent enough with what they've done against good teams to continue to do that against good teams to make it to the playoffs.
5 of their last 7 games are home games.
Well, I think it's 4 of 6 now.
Sure. But I mean,
yes.
Here's what we know. They are better than expected.
Agreed.
Yes.
Most people had them at 6 wins for the season. We've already.
I was in that. I was in between that 6 and 7 range. Like that's because we didn't know they had spent $1 million on defense. We had never seen those guys play together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know what they look like. I feel pretty good about they have some flaws that I'm concerned about still. But they also have shown outside of 2 or 3 games that they can get after the quarterback. They can play in coverage. They're not talent deficient at linebacker like they have been, where the middle of the field was just like a free pass for 30 yards whenever you needed it. They have not been perfect, but they have been good to almost like above average.
What do you think about Zach Taylor as a play caller?
I think what we saw against the Steelers looked pretty freaking good to me. I think he's coming into his own in terms of understanding. Well, it takes time.
I understand. I'm just saying, when you're putting yourself as the guy, you are the first guy that we're going to criticize at the same time as you're the head coach and also being the play caller. So for him to figure it out halfway through his 3rd season, long overdue. But
well, I mean, he's now got some stability in what he's able to put out there every week too.
I think the big thing is he's got the smartest kid in the NFL that I believe Joe Burrow is at least top 3 quarterback in the NFL.
I mean, if you listen to him out, if you
top 3 quarterback in the NFL,
top 3, top 5. I mean, I don't think you can put him outside the top 5 for a guy at his age and doing the things that he's doing. I want to consider the age thing too. If you're building a franchise,
you don't get qualifiers. Saying he's a top 5 quarterback is saying he's a top 5 quarterback.
Then I'm here for it.
I think if you listen to him in a lot of his post game stuff, it's impressive the amount of knowledge. I agree completely. And preparation that and that's not to say that other quarterbacks don't have that, but the way he's able to present it and the way that he recalls certain things that he does.
It sounds a lot like Wes Miller talking basketball, doesn't it?
Oh, which is awesome too. Holy cow. I never pretend to have an immense amount of basketball smarts, but I feel like I have learned like a ridiculous amount about basketball
Right?
in the first 3 weeks here of the UC basketball season, just listening to Wes Miller talk after a game.
Listen to me then.
Well, let's break this down real quick though. In the AFC North, would you take anybody over Joe Burrow?
Lamar is at worst right there with him.
Okay. So in the AFC as a whole, I mean, I assume that you have Patrick Mahomes up there, but
Yes,
he
Super Bowl winner Patrick Mahomes
he's
above
also,
Joe Burrow.
He's also struggled this season, and he looks kind of just
You
off.
think Joe Burrow's not going to have a struggle season at any point in time?
And he has struggled at times this season. I'll give you that.
How did Patrick Mahomes look in year 2 of his career? Did he win a Super Bowl?
Well, year 2 was his first year starting, wasn't it?
In year 2 of starting, did he win a Super Bowl?
Okay. Well, I think that's you still. I mean, it's kind of moving the goalposts a little bit, in all fairness, because you have that first year.
You're putting Joe Burrow above Pat Mahomes
in year 2, sure.
No, you're claiming Joe Burrow is right now a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
I'm saying top 5. If we're going top 5, I think Patrick Mahomes is also in that top 5, but I think Joe Burrow is right there, and I don't know who to rank above the other end. I think they're very close.
Would you say he's elite?
Absolutely, I think he's elite, but I struggle with using the word elite because I don't think you can call 5 people in the league elite. But
okay, so here you go.
Tom Brady elite
now?
Yes.
Oh, Aaron, don't do this to yourself.
Yes.
Don't die on this hill.
Yes, Tom Brady.
Don't die on this hill.
Is
Aaron Rodgers elite?
Well, you just reminded me.
I don't know. Does COVID toe make you elite?
You just reminded me of Stu Gatz, where you're like, "Don't do this to yourself, Dan. I care about you."
Right? Like, I care about you. Don't say Tom Brady is not a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Well, yeah, Lamar. Okay, so
at 48 or however old he is,
at 100, he might be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL when he's 100.
When do we find out he's on some sort of drug that the
he's
league
actually he's actually a cyborg.
He is a cyborg. Look at him.
He's
everything's
nothing
perfect.
moves.
His face structure, nothing
it doesn't
moves.
move.
He's fake. He's fake. But he's still a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
He was replaced 7 years ago with none of us.
Right.
You got Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Better, the same, or worse? Probably about the same, right? Is that?
I would take Joe Burrow over Lamar every day.
Okay.
I would say they're in very much the same stratosphere.
Josh Allen.
I would still take Josh Allen right now.
I take Joe over Josh.
Baker Mayfield.
I think last year was an anomaly.
Baker Mayfield, 100%.
I'm just going down the list. Teddy Bridgewater.
Get out of here.
Tyrod Taylor.
Burrow.
Carson Wentz.
Next.
Burrow.
Trevor Lawrence.
Next.
That one's going to be close, but right now it's Burrow.
He's struggled this season.
Patrick Mahomes.
He also has
and this is right
he also
now.
has Oil Check Urban as his coach, and that doesn't help anybody.
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr is close, but I take Burrow over Derek Carr.
Justin Herbert.
Again,
they're about the same.
Herbert was better earlier in the season, or Herbert's come back to earth, and I think Joe Burrow has kind of passed him up. So.
We about to find out.
Yes, we are.
Tua.
Oh, Burrow. Joe Burrow all day.
Mac Jones.
I heard someone argue Mac Jones earlier today, and I'm not here.
They're saying Mac Jones is actually really good.
I'm not here for it. Mac Jones.
281-330-8004. Hit Mac Jones up on the low because Mac Jones about to blow.
Here's an interesting.
Right now, it's Mac Jones.
That's Ed's biggest contribution to the show. Well done, Ed.
Here's an interesting one. Mike White.
Next.
Roethlisberger.
Burrow.
He can go home.
And Tannehill.
Burrow. So where do we have him? Equal, under like two or three guys above him. equal with 2 or 3 guys.
And that's in the AFC.
Yes.
And then you go over to the NFC and you got Matt Ryan.
Right now, I'll take Burrow.
Colt McCoy.
Burrow.
Cam Newton.
Burrow.
Justin Fields, Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton.
Dak Prescott.
I take Dak. You have to take Dak
Flyers
right
still
now.
out on that one.
I disagree.
You're dumb.
That's
No,
fine.
he's not proven.
Jared Goff.
Burrow.
That's close, but I'll take Burrow.
Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers.
COVID toe or no COVID toe?
Next.
Shut up, Ed.
Matt Stafford.
Burrow. Matt
They're
Stafford's
close.
Matt Stafford is
close.
they are close. Matt Stafford's a
close.
product of his environment.
He played in Detroit, you dumbass.
He had receivers in Detroit.
Okay.
He played in Detroit.
He always had receivers though.
Kirk Cousins.
He played with Megatron.
Elite.
Burrow.
Trevor Siemian / Jameis Winston was playing pretty well at the beginning of the year
Jameis
before he
was
got
playing
hurt.
pretty well.
He
but
was
Tre-
playing
but
well,
Burrow.
but
But Burrow.
Daniel Jones.
Burrow.
Who?
Jalen Hurts.
Burrow.
Hurts has been pretty good lately, but
He
still
had,
Burrow.
well, he had an awful
Garoppolo.
Burrow.
Burrow.
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
Russ.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
Burrow.
Aaron. Tom Brady. And then I can't pronounce his name. The Washington football team guy was it Taylor Heineke.
Heineke.
Yes.
So the reality is, Burrow is entering a portion of his
He's
career
flirting with that top 5.
where he's top 10. He's
Top
top
10.
10.
Oh,
Yeah, he's up there.
he's
That's
flirting.
an amazing account. A top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
Well,
It's
for the-
fantastic.
And
for the
he's not even a full two. He's not even a full
Right.
2 seasons in.
Well,
so you,
Great
we've-
fucking job, Joe.
you got to take that. I mean,
we've-
that all day long. Joe Burrow, where he's at, obviously for this Bengals team, could you maybe be a better team if Tom Brady is there? Probably. Is there anybody in that in the rest of the NFL that makes the Bengals right now a 9-2 team or a 10-1? Probably not.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Well, we've lost everyone as we ran through all of the quarterbacks in the NFL 2 hours and 15 minutes into this podcast.
I don't care.
There's
That's
still
fine.
people.
The Bengals game against the 49ers did get flexed to a 4:15 game, so that is noteworthy.
That sucks too, because I got tickets to that game and taking my kid, and now he's gonna miss his basketball game.
Well,
Stupid
I mean-
NFL. But I asked him. He said it was more important to attend an NFL game than it was to go play a game of basketball. So
you have the Chargers at home, you have the Niners at home, you have at Denver, you have the Ravens at home, the Chiefs at home, and then you go to Cleveland to end up the season. Should be interesting to see how they finish out. I put them at this point. I think they can do 11. I don't think that's crazy to put them at 11. If they do better, kudos. I think that gets them into the playoffs. So either way, that all said, Chad, for anybody who has listened to 2 hours and 15 minutes of the PTP at this point in time, do you have any type of Easter eggs or breadcrumbs that you want to drop here at this point in time for anything coming up this week for Bearcat Journal?
Pretty standard for right now. The rest of this week should be pretty standard. I haven't unleashed any bombshells that are coming the rest of this week. We dropped what? 2 new title sponsors.
We did.
Our
3.
good friends at Danco Transmission. Our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken.
That's a big one.
Which we're gonna. We talked about this. We're gonna need to do a staff dinner at Galactic because you guys don't. If you haven't been there, you don't know. If you're a chicken tendies guy,
I'm
they have
excited.
as good a chicken tenders as I've ever had. And
chicken tenders guy.
And they don't pre-fry their chicken. When you come in and you order fried chicken,
You gotta wait.
They drop that shit in the fryer when you walk, like when you put the order in.
You gotta wait.
You a fried pickles guy, Ed?
Oh yeah, fried pickles are where it's at. Yeah,
They have phenomenal. I don't like pickles. They have great fried pickles.
the pickles are good.
They got like their own 2 or 3 different sauces. They're in Dayton, Kentucky.
I know where that's at.
The Newport on the Levee exit. You just go in the opposite direction as Newport on the Levee for like 5 minutes, and you're there.
Any hints that you want to give on who the potential podcast? I don't want a deep hint, but any, just because I want to see. I honestly just want to see people scramble on the boards if they listen this far to see somebody drop the thread.
The problem is any hint would give it away.
Okay, then
I don't know. Like, do you have a hint that wouldn't give it away? You know who it is.
I do.
Is there a hint that wouldn't give it away?
I know who it is.
You don't. I didn't tell you.
Oh, I guessed.
You didn't.
I'm just taking a wild guess here.
That's not, because
I
what
love
if you
that Chad's
accidentally
looking
get it?
up at Ed right now. Like, it was like the Brady Bunch.
I think I've got a serious fucking problem. So I bought, like, in the new place, we didn't have enough smart TVs for the rooms that we had, right? So I needed one extra smart TV for my office so that when UC plays on ESPN Plus, like they are tomorrow against Miami, that I can watch it.
Get a second screen for your computer.
I can't find ESPN Plus on this TV. It's not in the apps.
Do you have an LG?
Download the ESPN app.
It's a Vizio.
Isn't there an app store?
Yeah. And ESPN Plus is not in it from what
Uh-oh.
I've got ESPN Films, Instant Classics, and Marvel and ESPN Films Presents.
You might have to get like a Fire Stick or something to sign in, or get a second monitor for your computer.
I can do it on. I don't want to do it. I want to watch the game on a 50-inch screen.
Makes sense. Run the second.
Unfortunately, ESPN Plus is not currently available natively on Vizio smart TVs.
Ed just Googled it.
That is from the Streamable.
And
Oh, but then there's an article here about how to install it.
Send that link to me, Ed.
Yep.
All right.
I've got radio tonight. I didn't get home until 7:10. Right. I'm not going to have time when I get done with radio tomorrow to get home and mess with this. I need it done tonight before I go to bed so that I can comfortably get home from radio tomorrow hosting the Mo Egger show.
Make the TV your second monitor.
Well, I can easily like Chromecast or like, if I need to. I don't want to, but I bought the damn TV and
So that was another episode of Part of the Punctuation. We will figure Chad's problem out.
Some bullshit, man.
As always, I am your host, Aaron Smith, joined. Thank you, Chad, for making the time for us. You had a busy day, obviously getting home at 7:00 and making time for us as we started at 9 and we've gone until 11:30. But for the self-proclaimed best producer, that's probably going to be challenged.
Not tonight.
Probably going to be challenged after this week, along with Jeff Howell. This was Pardon the Punctuation, brought to you by insert your sponsor name here, since we're collecting them right now like Pokemon cards.
Email us at pardonthepunctuation@gmail.com.
Get in there. But this was another episode of Pardon the Punctuation. Thank you for staying with us this long. I have no idea why you did, but we will be back here next week doing the same damn thing. At that point, we will already know where Cincinnati Bearcats are. in the final shuffle after December 5th, and we'll have a better idea of who this Bengals team is and what's going on with this Bearcats basketball team. We'll see you then.
Ba-dum-bum.